Right guys, well I've got absolutely loads to catch you up on. I know we haven't had a vlog as regularly for the last few weeks. I went to France, caught you up on what was going on there. I've been fishing a lot of local matches, just taking it steady really for the last few weeks, just trying to get on top of everything, because from now it really does kick off for me. There's loads and loads of events going on. I absolutely love it. Can't get enough of it, to be honest. And I've just come off the back of a 7-day fishing marathon. I was booked in for the Dynamite Baits Festival at Whiteacres, and before that, on the Saturday Sunday, I thought I'd go and have a go at the Maven Match This qualifiers at Packington and Lifford. So I'll catch you up on everything that's gone off. First of all, Packington. I had a iffy draw, I was told, 15 on Molens. Those of you that know the lake might be able to tell me better, but all the info was I hadn't drawn a peg that was capable, of winning the match, but it was a relatively a decent area for a few bites. But so I went there quite open-minded, still put a lot of effort in. That's something I've been doing a lot recently. I haven't just been settling for, you know, when you draw a peg like that, oh, I'm just going to set a method rod up and edge rig. I've really put the effort in. I've set up lots of different possibilities, and I've tried to cover what I thought, so I could at least win a section. They were paying 70 quid for a section win, so it was always going to be worth fishing properly and doing things properly. I had noticed that conditions had gone warm, high pressure, and I just felt that when you get that first stint of warm weather into the spring, meat can often play a big part. So I made my decision to fish with a bit of meat on short pole and down the edge, and then out long I was going to try shallow, and of course I had a method line. It was very shallow where I was chucking my method. I never really felt it was going to be worth many fish. I did also set a waggler up, but again, wind was awkward. I never felt like that was going to be worth a great deal. I had a steady match really. I ended up with 18 F1s, and I think I might have had 2 small carp or 1 small carp for £48. It was enough to win the section. I was really pleased about that. £25 was second in the section, so I felt like I'd made a real good effort of it to win my section. Walked off the bank happy, 70 quid in my pocket. And I think when you go to a big qualifier like that, when you don't draw an area that's going to win the match, that's all you can aim for, to fish your best match possible. If you win your section, my dad always used to say to me, if you win your section, you're in the best section, you're going to win the match. Good advice that is, I think. You know, if for some reason it had fished hard on the day and I'd made the best in my section, it might have been enough. As it happens, it wasn't. My travelling partner and I'm going to claim good friend Frankie Gianoncelli won the match from Little Geary's. Had a great battle with another friend of mine, Adam Wakeling, next peg. There was a lot of fish in that area, and those guys came first and second in the match. You know, Lee Edwards was joint second with Adam as well. So 3 very good anglers there, filling the top 3 places. But they were all on the same lake, in the same area of that lake. That's what happens on these big qualifiers. You tend to find there's an area that fishes that little bit better. I've had £117 Frankie as his winning weight. Obviously, based on what I've just told you from where I wasn't going to win the match, but that's seen him into the final. So it was a good start of the 7-day marathon. Moved to Lifford the next day, drew peg 8 on the Specie. 2 pegs together, missed 1. I knew it was going to be hard. It was never going to be an easy match on the Specie. Focused a lot of my efforts on catching on a feeder, trying to find where the fish were. I've got a real issue with the big lakes at the moment, if I'm being perfectly honest. I don't think it's anything. I think the fisheries are well run and everything else, but the match started and everybody sat in a line on the Specie Lake, and to a man, everybody was there firing in 8mm pellets at about 30 metres. And I should think for the first 2 hours nobody put their catapult down. And I can probably say after 2 hours there was only 3 or 4 carp caught across the entire length. This is because they've got an easy meal in 8mm pellets being pinged on the same line. They don't have to feed, they just mooch around in the silt picking up an odd pellet which they know is safe, and it's dead easy for them. 8mm pellets like that, in my eyes, are ruining these sorts of fisheries. I think that bigger fisheries would really benefit from limiting the size of pellets to 6mm. This is just my opinion. But whenever they have a pole only match, or even a feeder only match, or pellets are banned, the fishing goes through the roof. The fishing goes absolutely brilliant. That is purely because these big pellets aren't just being fired into the lake. I think it's not good for the fisheries themselves. That's just my opinion. You still sell plenty of pellets selling 4mm and 2mm and 6mm pellets, but of course 6mm pellets are only ever going to go, say, 18, 19 metres maximum, which means people aren't going to do it as a method to draw fish and to send fish out. So I just think that would help. It proved a long day, but I had 4 carp and 4 skimmers, and I think I weighed 54 pound 11 ounces, which was enough for another section win. Won my 10 peg section. Happy with that. Done my bit to win my section. Had some good info from Andy Kinder. Put me right with using boilies on the method. So that was interesting. I'm not a massive boilie man on the method, but took his advice and it worked for me. I caught some big fish. And when I looked at it, £107 won the match. Chris Cameron, last year's champion. And I felt that, alright, I wasn't in an area where that was likely when you consider I've had £54 and won the section. I think there was a £30 was next. So you can tell again, I've won the section quite well. So to catch £110 would have been a lot. However, one angler on the Spessy Lake in particular had 2 carp in his net that went £44. So I only needed 3 or 4 more carp and potentially I could have won the match. So actually I thought it was a good match, and I think, with maybe a change with those pellets, I think all of a sudden you could have won the match from a lot of areas, because the fishery team really did peg it well. They didn't peg any really obvious end pegs. They tried to peg it all the way around. It was a really, really great match, really, in terms of qualifying, because nobody really knew where the winner was going to come from. And Chris qualified from the middle of the deeper bank, which I really wouldn't have fancied much, so well done to him. That moved me on to Whiteacres. Couple of section wins, and I'd managed to win the match at Lindholm during the week, so I felt I was finding a little bit of form again. That was nice. So going on the first day, I drew on Porth. I wasn't overly keen to be on Porth first day, to be honest. I hadn't had a lot of bait at all because nobody had fished it, so I thought it was going to be hard. But because we'd had this big ridge of high pressure on, there was a lot of sunshine on the water, and the water in the upper layers had warmed up, and the fish were keen to feed. And with the lack of wind, I felt that shallow fishing was going to play a massive part, so I fished a waggler in the top 6 foot of water, caught a lot of skimmers. The wind was a little bit in my face, so I couldn't really loose feed, so I catapulted small balls. I fished with F1 Black and Sunabait's Bream mixed together, made a lovely mix that 2 squeezes. It was hitting the water and breaking up, which is what I wanted when I was looking to catch shallow. Worked really well for me, and I put a lot of fish together. And then later on in the match, when I felt there was a chance for a bream, I fished 75 turns with a bigger feeder, with pellets and a boilie, and I nicked 2 bream late on. So I had really one of those matches where it went for me. Whenever I changed or tried something different, the float went under. And I think that happens when you draw in a good area, the fish are feeding, you can make the most of your peg. And I've weighed £23, which is my second best ever weight at Porth, so you can tell that it obviously fished well. And I won the lake, so I was really pleased to get off to a lake winning start. Obviously it's all done on section points, so that was fantastic. I then moved on to Belingi, drew peg 8, which is certainly not a peg you'd run to. However, there was some fish in the area, the wind was in that area, and I thought, well, and they've changed the pegging slightly now, so peg 9 doesn't get put in, so there's a bit of space there for peg 8. And I caught a few fish, I had a nice steady day's fishing. I caught some fish short, I caught a few fish down the edge, and I caught some fish to my left hand edge as well. They banned ground bait down the edge at Belingi a disappointing rule, because I really do feel like I understand that ground bait fishing quite well at the moment. So I was disappointed that that was banned. So instead I changed and fished meat down the edge, just feeding after every fish, trying to catch a fish as I could. I just stepped my elastic up. The fish were crazy. I just couldn't believe, and I knew it was going to fish well all week because every fish I hooked absolutely fought till the death. I ended up fishing 17 hollow. I fished a 14 PR38, which is an eyed hook. I like them when I'm fishing strong lines because the knotless knot never seems to let you down. You don't get as much pressure and you don't seem to break as easy. Then sometimes a spade can break a little bit easy. So that was a nice little edge that I had. I landed a lot of fish quicker than a lot of people because I was fishing the stronger tackle. It just led to a nice day, and it shows the diversity of whiteacres. 23 pounder skimmers one day. I ended up weighing 124 pounder carp and winning the section. It was enough to win that back lake. It didn't fish as well on that back lake. The two arms were fishing incredibly well. There was 160, 150, 148. So didn't really feel like I could have won the lake. But you never know. Maybe a few decisions in the middle of the match I could have done, but a section win's all you ever fish for. So it was, you know, after the weekend and 2 section wins, I was really feeling confident going into the Wednesday. I'd had some good fishing for the previous 5 days. I drew Polo in 21 on the 3rd day. I'd never been on that peg before. There's a point of an island to fish to. You can cast to an island probably around 40 metres away, probably further, maybe 45 metres away. The water seems shallow there though. I got a lot of liners but no fish. I think the liners were skimmers. I think the spawning skimmers were in the shallows and you were getting a lot of little liners from some skimmers. Couldn't catch anything on that. I knew I was in trouble when I went across to the island, and after an hour I'd not had a carp. I just had 2 F1s and some skimmers and hybrids. I just knew the carp weren't there. The trouble is on the Poloing, the carp are so big that if you don't catch any, you're really struggling because there's not masses of amount of other fish. Maybe 40, 50, 60 pound if you do it really well. You're going to struggle to catch more than that of other fish without catching carp. And I was hoping that I could nick a few carp late because I hadn't caught any early. So I had a steady match, fishing meat to the island, tried pellets but it didn't really seem the same, tried the method with smaller hook baits, couldn't catch anything at that distance. And I caught a few F1s to the island. There was no real silvers down there. I nicked a barbel short. I was just ducking and diving and I thought, last hour, this is me, 3 big carp and I could win the section. Unfortunately, I never caught one. I never saw a carp, hooked a carp, anything of any size. I had 3 little ones in and amongst my fishing, but they were like 3 pounders, which anyone will tell you they're not the main sort of fish you're looking for on the match lake. They tend to be 6 to 10 pounds, to be honest. So I was really disappointed. I weighed 48 pound. There was 2 60s, a 78 and an 88, so you can tell I was miles off the pace from winning the section. Really disappointed because never felt like I had a chance of doing it from there. I still can't think how I could have nicked those big carp. I like to be really brutal with myself. Try to think, what could I have done? I don't know. Maybe I could have fished to the island all day exclusively. I might have nicked an odd bigger carp, you know, fish stronger gear with bigger baits, but I just never looked like hooking one. And I thought, well, if I don't catch anything of anything else, I'm going to really struggle. And then I came off it towards the end to try and catch carp again and never really put anything in the net. So maybe I could have caught 60 pound, but it would have only been enough for 3rd or 4th anyway. I think I needed 65 pound for 3rd, so it's still a lot bigger weight. So I had to walk away from that day saying, okay, it's one of those. I've been on one of those tough pegs. That's the way it goes. I thought that was then like, I was hoping that was going to be my one blip, but the following day I drew Jenny's peg 2, wind blowing out of that corner. Anyone who knows Jenny's knows that's a horrendous draw. The fish were 4 to 9, that's where they'd been all week, and I just felt that my only chance was to fish for silverfish, and just hope that the people on the fish make a mess. Good friend of mine, Rob Wootton, was on peg 8, that's the boss peg. He made it count, £72 for a section win, 70 F1s shallow. There was a guy on peg 4, he's had 3 big carp and some F1s shallow, won a chuck in the middle of the match for £56. I've had a really interesting match, short with meat, long with chopped worms, down the edge with casters, few fish on a method with just a maggot on the hook, and I've just nicked a fish everywhere. I've kept nicking a fish off all my lines. I never strung them together. I never felt there was masses of fish there in any numbers. But I was really pleased when I weighed. I weighed £52. All silverfish really. I had 3 small carp in there. Again, those 3 carp wouldn't have even gone £7, so they weren't massive fish. So just skimmers, an odd carasio, roach, tench, crucians. I had a lovely, lovely day's fishing. I was really disappointed, to be honest. I came 3rd in the section. £4 from 2nd. £4's a lot when you're catching those fish, but 2 more pulls, 2 more go-unders with a 2.5 pound carp or a big bream, and I could have won the section. I definitely can't say that I didn't. I couldn't have done, because you never know. But I didn't feel I fished a bad match. I just felt like possibly I hadn't had that little break for 2nd. As it happened, that 2nd to a 3rd was really going to cost me, because on the final day I drew Trelawney 16, nice area of the lake. The fish was from 12 to 18 on the day. There was a lot of fish, 12, 14, 16, 18. I caught 50 F1s and 5 carp for £127, £124 I think, £127, and I caught a lot of them on pellet shallow, method to the island, and pellets down the edge, rotating again to keep fish coming. Didn't fish big hook lengths and that, because a lot of F1s. The F1s I caught an odd like 3-pounder, odd ones a pound, 50 F1s and 5 carp. I'd say my 5 carp went £25, probably £20 because I had 2 small ones, £20 to £25, and my 50 F1s went £100. So you can tell they're averaging £2 a piece, so they're definitely worth catching. Had a really nice day's fishing and won the section and won Trelawney as well. So I finished the week with 3 section wins, a 3rd and a 5th. Nearly always good enough to sneak in the top 10. Unfortunately, it wasn't on this occasion. I was 12th. I've had a really kind run at Whiteacres over the last few years, top 10 in a lot of the festivals I've fished. So I was disappointed to be out of the top 10. Had I have been 2nd on that day on Jenny's, that very fine margin that we're talking about, I would have come 4th in the festival, which would have been a great result. I'd have been really happy with that, having to have a bad peg like I did on Poloin and Jenny's. So I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say, felt I could have maybe somehow snuck that 2nd, although I was happy with my performance on that day. But what a great week, what diverse fishing. Paul Holland won the festival. You need that little bit of luck to win the festival, but you've got to fish brilliant. And Paul Holland's obviously fished brilliant to win. Congratulations, mate. Fully deserved a festival win. I know you said to me last year that you went 1-1. This year already you've won 2. Brilliant, mate. Really, really pleased for you. But a great 7 days fishing, I would say. Well, like I said, I went to Lindome on the Thursday before, so in 8 days fishing I had 6 section wins. I don't think you can complain at that. Won my lake on a few occasions and the match, so finding some form after a couple of dodgy weeks. Really happy about that, hoping it's going to continue. I've got lots of great things coming up, but as you can see, working hard, ringing the changes, that's really played a massive part in those results over the last week. Being prepared to adapt to conditions on the day. So bear that in mind over your matches over the coming weeks, and I'll catch you up next time I've been out on the bank. Cheers, thanks.